Hello everybody, welcome back to Erndales and welcome back to Vlogmas. So today I'm continuing on with my Christmas past little spiel, and we are going to move on to the 50s and the 60s. So my parents moved to Winnipeg in 1953 and with her 3 little boys. And I came along in 1955, and my youngest brother, Dean, came along in 1959. Those early years were really tough for my family. My dad had a lot of skills, but he had no trade. And he really struggled with finding appropriate work, things that he could do. So for quite a few years, he sold pots and pans for Kitchen Queen. And then he sold vacuum cleaners for them. And he did that for quite a long time. And he finally got a job at Canada Wire and Cable, which, oddly enough, was owned by Noranda Mines, where he worked in Noranda, Quebec. And he was at that job for over 30 years, and he actually retired from that job. So in 1955, I came along, and that Christmas, I got a doll from my brother, Wayne. And here she is. I still have her. This is Susie. She's a tiny little rubber doll. At one time, because she's got the crier in her, at one time she did the mama thing, but she doesn't anymore. So after the war was over, in the 50s, things started to pick up for people. You know, times were still really difficult, but things were improving every year. People were getting back to work. There was more production companies, industry, all that kind of stuff was getting back to normal and progressing very quickly. The stores in the 50s, late 50s, early 60s, were jam-packed with things, and the store windows in particular were very commercial. Commercialism was coming to its beginning, I think, in that era. You would go downtown, and I remember this very well. We would have a trip one evening before Christmas to go down and walk along the street and look at the big store windows. In Winnipeg, that was an Eaton store and Hudson Bay store, and it was called Hudson Bay back then, not the Bay. And their windows were glorious, and they were the thing of dreams for children. Also in the 60s, early 60s, there was only one Santa. Don't forget, we weren't connected. Our radios and our television stations were local. We didn't have internet. We didn't have cable. And so you went to the Santa Claus parade, which was run by the Eaton store, and I think it still is, or maybe not anymore. I don't know. And you stood out in the cold, and that Santa that went by in a sleigh was the same Santa that went to the Eaton store and was the only Santa pretty much in the whole city. And you would go and you would see that Santa. I have a picture of me on that Santa's knee. And it's really funny because years ago, maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe even longer than that, we were watching a Christmas movie, you know, one of those W Christmas movies. And in this movie, I think it was called The Christmas Lodge, I'm not sure. But in that movie, somebody found a picture of a child on Santa's knee. And do you know, it was exactly this Santa in this setting. It just wasn't me. So if you ever see that movie, watch for this picture, because you'll see this Santa with this setting. I freaked out when I saw it. I said, that's my Santa. Anyway, all the children that you went to school with sat on the same Santa's knee. There was only one Santa. It solidified that Santa feeling that, you know, you saw him come, you sat on his knee, you told him what you wanted, and all was going to be good. But that wasn't the case for me. When Chatty Cathy came to Canada, it was a big splash. By then we did have some TV, but the commercials were all for Chatty Cathy, and you know, that was the big thing that year. And I wanted that doll so very, very badly. And all my friends wanted that doll so very, very, very badly. Well, that Christmas morning I got up and I had Susie, and I still have her. She's on my desk. She's well, I'll just go get her. Hold on. So I had Susie and I had Linda. She's another rubber doll, but she's got breasts. She's a fashion doll. I had her, and I had Betty, she's under the tree. See if I can point you to her. She's that one right there in the blue. Where is she? Right there. That's Betty. So I had those 3 dolls already. They were my play dolls. I played with them, and I had a baby doll too. But those 3, when I got up in the morning, were underneath the tree in brand new outfits. And Linda, the fashion doll, was dressed as a bride, and Susie and Betty were her bridesmaids. They all had brand new clothes. She had a bridal with a veil and everything. And that was the other thing. Little girls all wanted bride dolls and all wanted to be a bride. I remember going through the catalogs, the Christmas catalogs, or even just the regular catalogs. The first place a little girl would look was in the bride section, because you wanted to see the brides. So she was dressed as a bride beautifully. And the other 2 had on really pretty bridesmaid dresses. And then there was a little suitcase, which I don't have anymore. I don't know whatever happened to it. And in that suitcase was a pair of pajamas for each one of the dolls. But there was no Chatty Cathy doll. And I was just devastated. I was just beside myself. I was so upset. I mean, I was very happy that I finally had a bride doll, but it wasn't Chatty Cathy. And the next day, or several days later, when I got together with my little friends on the street, they all had Chatty Cathy dolls and I did not. So I learned disappointment at a very young age. And I finally did get my Chatty Cathy doll. It only took 50 years for me to finally get my Chatty Cathy. And now I have 7 of them. This is one of my favorite ones. This one Gary bought me. And she doesn't talk. She still has the string, but she doesn't talk. Someday I'm going to fix her. I keep saying that, but I don't think I'm going to crack her open to do that. She's fine just the way she is. So, and one of the reasons that all the little girls wanted the Chatty Cathy dolls was if we had a television, and I don't think we had one, but I think some of my neighbor friends did have TVs at the time. But in the Eaton's and Bay window were doll displays of Chatty Cathy and Chatty Baby and all the different dolls that were available at that time. And that just, you know, you stood there for, it seemed like hours at that window, just dreaming of having that doll. And I was very much a doll girl. So the other thing, Christmas cards were much more cheerful now too. They were starting to get little cutesy pictures. So this is, I believe, where my passion for doll collecting started, with not having Chatty Cathy. I always loved dolls, and I still do. And over the years, I have collected a lot of dolls. And I guess this would be the best place to take you downstairs and show you what I have remaining of my doll collection. So I'm going to take you downstairs and show you my passion, one of my passions. And I credit my dolls for bringing me back to knitting. I had stopped knitting for many, many years. And I was asked one time by, I belonged to a lot of doll collecting clubs, and I was asked if I knew anybody who could knit doll clothes for bigger dolls, sort of like what that one has, the sweater and the little hat. And I said, well, I think I could. And I started back knitting doll clothes, and I had actually knit quite a few really elaborate pieces. And then I started selling them. And so, and I found that I love to knit again. So it was dolls that got me back into knitting. And I'm so thankful for that, because I don't know where I'd be today if I couldn't knit. So let's go look at some dolls. And then I'm going to leave you with a beautiful rendition of an Advent carol that I just absolutely love. So have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you soon. Bye. So these are some of my dolls. I do have a vintage bride doll in there. These are not the Chatty Cathys. This is one of their little rubber dolls. This little doll I got when I was 4 years old at a birthday party from Glen Matsu. Sweet little thing. There's her Timey Tell, her Giggles. This little Campbell kid, I have 2 of them. There's one down here too. You used to be able to send away for them. I remember my mom doing that for me. These are all Chatty Cathys and Chatty Babies. So there's a Cathy there. There's some Chatty Babies, singing Cathys, regular Chatty Cathys. This is all of my Chatty Cathys. This one, I don't know why she's not. Come on, face forward. They're all squished in here. I used to have a doll room, but I don't have that anymore. And then there's another one here. And then I have my big dolls. I have dolls all over the house. And there's a sweet little one up here, a little FMB. And they all live in this pretty cabinet here.